Part 1. You will hear a student called Poppy talking with a librarian about joining the public library. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 6. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 6.
Good morning. How can I help you?
Hello. I've just moved here and would like to join the local library.
Welcome to the town. Where have you come from?
I've just moved here from Oxford.
It's a beautiful city. I was a student there many years ago. Well, let's get you sorted out with library membership, and then you can take some books out today.
Oh, I can borrow books today? Thanks, that would be great. I have to hand in the first draft of a term paper in 2 weeks.
What are you studying?
Initially, I chose to study finance because Bright University has one of the best departments. But after I went on a campus tour, I decided to change to politics. Now I'm really happy.
Wonderful. It's good to find a subject you really enjoy. So, I'll just need to ask you a few questions, check some documents, and then fill in your details on the computer.
OK. I hope I've brought the right things with me.
Today, I'll need proof of identity and one thing to confirm your address. Your proof of identity needs to be something with your photograph and your signature, like a driving license or a passport. The proof of address needs to confirm where you are currently living. Most people bring a bank statement, council tax bill, or a gas or a water bill.
Here you go. My passport. And here's my latest electricity bill. Will these do?
Perfect. I'll just scan those into the system and then you can have them back. Next, I need to take a few personal details from you. Let's start with your full name, please.
It's Poppy Sarah Wilson.
How do you spell that? 1 L or 2?
It's with 2. W-I-L-L-S-E-N.
And your address, please?
14 Church Lane, Drayton, CB13V1Z.
And do you have a phone number?
I don't have a landline. I can't see the point in them anymore. But my mobile is 07911 789 560.
Lovely. That's all done. And here is your brand new card. Welcome to the library.
Thank you. How many books can I borrow?
It used to be a maximum of 5 at a time, but now you can take up to 7 for up to 3 weeks. However, you can renew any book if they haven't been requested by anyone else.
How do I renew my books?
You can do that online anytime or over the phone during library hours.
Thank you. You've been really helpful. I'll start looking for my books straight away.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 7 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 7 to 10.
Could I ask you some more questions?
Sure, go ahead.
Firstly, what are your working hours?
We start at 9 a.m. and close at 4:30 p.m. on weekdays and 3 p.m. at the weekend, except on special occasions like Christmas and New Year. It's also worth noting our help desks close 15 minutes earlier, around 4:15.
Thank you for the information. My next question is about facilities.
OK. We've recently renovated most of the amenities, and put in a new floor, so aren't you the lucky one?
Sounds excellent. I'll probably need to use meeting rooms for group projects like discussions and presentations. I hear the university library sometimes gets fully booked, especially during the semester, so I just need to know about the availability of rooms.
Well, we have 3 well-equipped large rooms per floor, all of which would be suitable for group work, but don't forget to make an early booking, either online or in person.
Do you charge for that?
No. As long as you're a member, we don't charge any fees. But there are some other rules to bear in mind too. You are not allowed to smoke, the person who booked the room should be present for the whole of the period booked, and most importantly, the rooms are not to be booked for social or business purposes, which is strictly prohibited under our library regulations.
All right, I'll keep those in mind. Lastly, is there anywhere I can get a drink or snacks around here?
Oh, I forgot to mention Willie's Cafe, which you can find right next to the west entrance. It only opened last month. It's a vibrant, modern place with a huge variety of food and drink on offer, all fresh and made to order.
Sounds perfect.
You'll find things like muffins, Danish pastries, bagels and toasties. Personally, I highly recommend the fruit desserts. Our pastry chef is excellent, and the fruit is fresh local produce. The cafe also serves great organic fair trade coffee, though that's not really my thing.
Thanks a lot for all this valuable information. It's really helpful.
It's my pleasure. Goodbye.
That is the end of part 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Part 2. You will hear a guide talking to a group of visitors about a wetland centre. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 15. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 15.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Carlos Pinto, and I'd like to welcome you all to the Bailey Wetland Centre. Before you go off for a walk around the centre, either alone or with one of our guides, I'm going to give you a short talk about the centre's history. I'll also pass on all the information you need to make your day as perfect as it can be. So let's start with a short history of the Wetland Centre. The BWC, the Bailey Wetland Centre, is a reserve jointly managed by the Alcester Trust and the UK Birdwatch charity. The construction of the centre began in 2002. It was then officially opened in 2005, and in 2009, the whole site was designated as a natural heritage site. Therefore, the site will be protected in perpetuity. The centre, which is located near farmland, occupies just over 200 acres of the land that was formerly several small reservoirs. These were created to provide fresh water for the local area. Although they were originally planned to be turned into residential areas, the proposal was revised, and then the reservoirs were converted, over a 7-year period, into a wide range of wetland features and habitats. We are very proud to say that, at the time of opening, it was the only urban wetland centre in the country. Since then, 3 more urban wetland centres have opened in the UK, but we are still the biggest, and in my opinion, the best. Many species of birds have now made their home in the centre, and some of these cannot be found anywhere else in this part of the country. The type of birds that we regularly observe are bitterns, lapwings, parakeets, and grebes. In recent months, there have been initial sightings of hawks and hen harriers. The centre, which is partially funded by the government, has several state-of-the-art buildings. They serve not only for recreation, but also for wildlife education. We regularly host lectures and events that are concerned with the preservation of wetland birds and the conservation of the other animals that live on the water's edge. The centre has also often been used for TV nature programs such as Wonderful Birds and Saving Nature in the City, and hosts the long-running radio show Listening to Nature.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 16 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 16 to 20.
If you look at the map that you were given earlier, you can see that we are here at the main entrance. You can see the newly constructed gravel paths that go around the wetland centre. The lake is directly in front of you, and the pond and marsh area are in the northeast of the site. By the way, if you do not own binoculars, you can hire them from the information desk inside the visitors centre. The centre is the second building on the left as you follow the path, clockwise, and opposite it is the Bluebird Cafe, which is open from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. You will see on the map that we have built hides by the lake and the pond, and these give you the best vantage point for viewing today's animal visitors. The most popular hide is the green hide, behind the Bluebird Cafe, overlooking the lake. If you want a more secluded hide, I suggest that you follow the path over Moreton River, past the schoolroom located on the lakeside, and then the toilet on your left, and then take the small pathway nearer the pond. At the end of the pathway, you will find the sky hide. You may also be pleased to hear that all hides on the site have comfortable chairs and benches, and have a freshwater tap. For those of you who are not afraid of heights, we have the brand new viewing tower. To take advantage of this, follow the path anti-clockwise from the main entrance, and it's just after the toilet, across from the tea house. So are there any questions?
That is the end of part 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Part 3. You will hear a student called Peter talking to his tutor, Karen, about choosing a dissertation topic. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 26. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 26. Hello, Peter. Come in and take a seat by the heater. You look frozen.
Thanks, Karen. Yes, it's really cold today, and I really should have worn a thicker coat.
How are things going with your studies?
Really well, thank you. I've just handed in my final essay on the history of viral marketing, which was much more challenging than I had thought. And then next week my final exams are to begin. which I must not fail. I can't believe that my course is nearly over.
Yes, a 3-year degree soon comes to an end, and then it's out into the big wide world. Have you thought about what you are going to do next?
Yes, but I haven't come to a final decision. I've thought about continuing to a master's degree, looking for a job, and then I'd love to do some voluntary work, although, as I need to earn some money, I've shelved that plan for now.
Money is always important when making plans for the future.
I might even take a gap year and travel and work abroad, as I didn't do one before my degree, like most of my friends did. I really fancy seeing something of the world before I settle into a career. For now, though, I really need to focus on my dissertation.
Yes, it's a good idea to get that underway as soon as possible. Too many students put it off until the last moment and then rush to complete on time.
I really don't want that to be the case with me.
So, let's look at the schedule. Do you have a copy?
Yes, it's here on my tablet. I never go anywhere without it.
You need to have chosen your title by the end of May, submitted your plan to me in writing, in person or emailed by the end of June, and the final submission date is the 30th of September.
I thought the submission date was the 31st of October. Well, I'm really glad you put me right about that.
Yes, remember that the university accepts late submissions only once in a blue moon.
Thanks for reminding me. I'll keep that in mind.
Before you hear the rest of the discussion, you have some time to look at questions 27 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 27 to 30. OK, briefly tell me what you now have in mind.
The problem at the moment is that I have too many ideas. I seem to change my mind every day, and that worries me.
Well, that's what today's meeting is for. Firstly, we need to focus on the topic area, and then we can think about the exact title later. It's actually quite exciting, as almost anything is possible. The key for me is to find out what excites you and what may help you in the future.
What do you mean?
The dissertation process normally takes over 3 months, so you need to find something that you genuinely find interesting. It's a mistake to spend more than 10 weeks on a topic that is of no interest to you.
Yes, I see.
Secondly, you need to think carefully about your career and where you may end up working when you've finished. If you can write a dissertation that can enhance your job prospects too, then it's of even more value.
I'm hoping to work for an advertising agency after this course.
It sounds like you should choose something related to advertising then. Have you used the Thesis Quest search engine? It lists all past dissertations and has a section called Recommendations for Future Research.
That sounds extremely useful. Thank you so much for your time.
It's my pleasure. See you later. That is the end of part 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Part 4. You will hear a part of a lecture about psychology. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Good morning, and welcome to the University of Fenland. My name is Richard Benton, and I'm a visiting professor at the Department of Psychological Studies. Today, I'm going to give you a brief history of CBT as an introduction to this part of your first-year course. Over the coming weeks, we will revisit the ideas I'm going to talk about today and cover them in more detail. As you came into the lecture theatre, you hopefully picked up my presentation handout. If not, you can use the electronic version that was emailed to you yesterday morning. What is cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, as I will be referring to it throughout this lecture? CBT is a talking therapy designed to help people who are experiencing a broad range of mental health issues. CBT is the most evidence-based psychological therapy. It works on the assumption that the thoughts people have affect the way we feel and behave. This can lead to a vicious cycle in which thoughts, feelings, and behaviors have a negative impact on our ability to function. At this point, CBT helps us understand the links between thoughts, feelings, and behavior, and how they can induce symptoms of anxiety and low moods. CBT therapists can then instruct people on how to reduce the severity of their symptoms. It is quite normal to experience various symptoms when we are worried, under pressure, or distressed. At times like this, we tend to think differently about ourselves, others, and the world around us. Our own thoughts can sometimes be unhelpful, and at times extreme. This kind of thinking can further lower our mood and make us feel even worse. Our reaction to such feelings may simply cause us to behave in ways that prolong our distress. It is the role of a trained, professional CBT therapist to work with their patient to help them recognize unhelpful thoughts and learn effective strategies to challenge them and any other obstructive behaviors. In doing this, both the therapist and the patient very often see major improvements in how he or she thinks and feels, both about themselves and the world around them. CBT always starts with assessment, which includes identifying critical behaviors, thoughts, feelings, and sensations. These are then used to develop a working formula that informs the subsequent treatment plan. You can see an example of a CBT formula in this slide. And now I'd like you to discuss this with the student sitting next to you. So, let's continue. The origins of CBT can be traced back to the beginning of the 20th century with early behaviorists like Pavlov. In the 1960s, Dr. Aaron T. Beck, a psychiatrist at the University of Hepton, began to challenge behaviorism. He argued that thoughts always preceded behavior, and therefore it was essential to elicit thoughts in the therapeutic process. Beck originally practiced psychoanalysis, carrying out therapy experiments with patients suffering depression. It was from these experiments that he recognized that negative thoughts could arise spontaneously without the patient's control. He defined these as automatic negative thoughts, or ANTs. This concept became a new approach and was used to help patients evaluate and adjust both their thoughts and behavior. This new approach was initially labeled cognitive therapy, and later became known as Beckian cognitive behavioral therapy, or second-wave CBT. In the 1980s, CBT began to challenge Beck's theory, and a new third-wave branch of CBT was developed. Third-wave CBT returned to earlier behavioral concepts, placing the emphasis on patients identifying unhelpful behaviors and replacing these with more adaptive behaviors. An example of third-wave CBT is acceptance and commitment therapy, or ACT.
That is the end of part 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers.